And here we go.
What's up?
What's up?
How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing very well indeed. I'm pretty excited.
Yep, big show, big show.
Big show.
I actually have a
Croggins,
surprise for you in like 3 weeks.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to tell you who it is
man.
or what it is.
Really?
It's a big show. It'll be
awesome.
It'll be interesting. If everything pulls through, I think you will be very surprised on this person. So it'll be fun. Today's going to be unbelievable, to be honest.
Yeah. Today should be very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, when do you get this opportunity for arguably the best angler on the whole planet to spend a little bit of time with us?
Without question. Without question. He is the hottest guy on any circuit right now.
Yeah, without question. It'll be fun to talk to him, and hopefully we can take some people's questions that are texting or, you know what I mean, messaging us, and then see how he's doing. He's running a little late because he was, I can give you the exacts. His ETA is 9:06.
9:06. Okay.
He is perfect. I might be a few minutes late because I'm getting off the water.
Fishing as usual.
Yes. I mean, that's what makes him the best.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, I saw that there was a box you did the other day, an unboxing. And by the way, you are the king of unboxings. We should make that, you should start using that in your title. I am the king of unboxings.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Because you really are, and you do a great job at it. So that's great. I watch your stuff, so it's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I forgot the one that you did the other day.
Was it the Dark Horse tackle?
I think it might have been.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my subscribers got me onto this one box, and so I thought, well, I may as well try it. And he's another one of these small batch custom guys.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that one.
Yeah. Well, I need to see more than just one,
yes.
to actually make a real choice on it. But I will say that the other custom box that I was getting for a while, that Salt Creek tackle, that's kind of not going right now, had better stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was $70 a month. This one's only $25.
Yeah, that's all right.
So
yes,
they also have this deal where they have a $7 a month.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Texas Huntsman did hit it on the nose. Just so everyone give him credit.
Bet you Steve's going to ask about the Dark Horse box.
He must have texted me or something.
Yeah, some of these guys know you, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. There was something about that one that I just was like, I don't get it. I was like, okay, I appreciate the work that goes into doing that, but
yeah,
it just was, maybe it just wasn't. And really, let's just be point out. You know me better than a lot of people right now. I'm not a subscription tackle fan right now.
Right.
Yeah, I am. I think I'm over that hump right now, and I need to figure out if I'm going to do it or how I'm going to do it or which ones I'm going to do, and that will be it. Yeah. Yeah, Jacob's doing all sorts of stuff. When you win a tournament, you get inundated by people. Now,
yeah, especially when you're winning.
Yeah, does he go to all of them? No. I mean, Jacob and I have known each other for a long time, so I'm just really happy that he's giving us the time to do this. To be honest.
Yeah, especially so soon after his latest third win of the season.
Yeah, because I have a little intro when he does get on that I think you'll be pretty surprised by some of the stats I pulled up.
Yeah, it's shocking. I'm already prepared. I know it's going to be shocking.
Yeah.
it is so hard to win even one. I mean, we talked about this on a couple of weeks ago, that there are literally guys who have been fishing professionally at the highest level for 30 or more years and never have a single win.
Exactly.
And Jacob's had 3 this year.
Thanks, Dave, by the way. Yeah, it's not just. So can I just run through one stat real fast?
Yes.
This is this year. Just this year. 3 wins. A second. 2/3. And he had 1 bad finish at 51st. This year.
It's insane.
Imagine you have 6 tournaments and you didn't fish. You fished 7 tournaments this year. 6 of them you've been in the top 3.
It's amazing. And he's still not first in the AOI race right now. He's second.
I mean, it just shows you how good Defoe's been this year. That's the truth. And
Absolutely.
a fantastic angler. But I mean, honestly, I talked to Ken Duke about this yesterday because it was Sunday when you did your live show. I was texting Duke at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And Monday we went in this whole thing about is it possible for him to win at St. Clair? I mean, is it really? And Ken Duke's like, I think he's gonna win. And we both were dumbfounded to think someone winning 4 times in 1 year. That's unbelievable. Hashtag take a good fishing. It's ridiculous to even fathom the possibility of 4 wins in 1 season. Nobody's ever done it. No one's ever done it.
Yeah, that's right. There are I think about 4 anglers who have won 3 times in all the history of professional bass fishing, but it's such a rarity.
I think I deleted Ken's thing.
We talked about this on Sunday night that I wouldn't bet against him. They got 1 event left, and I would not bet against Jacob, even though he's already won 3.
I wouldn't have bet against him either. I think that you get on that roll. Like I talked to Jason Christie about it years ago, and he said you start to get on this roll, and it's like that Michael Jordan complex. Michael Jordan used to say when he got on fire, the rim looked this big.
Yeah.
And he would just shoot from anywhere, and it would go in. And now Jason Christie said the same thing. He was like, there are times where you just get in this groove where it's not only everything you use is working, everything you're doing is on fire. So he is in that phase right now, and it's scary. I mean, honestly, imagine going up against him right now.
It's just baffling. And he's got several buddies that he actually rooms with during tournaments. I know Mark Daniels is one of them, and a couple other guys.
Justin Connell.
Obviously, they're not sharing every single secret, but they're sharing information. There's no question, and it doesn't matter. He's still. It's like he has no competition right now. It's that crazy.
Yeah. He really
is. Didn't he win by like a 30-pound margin this last tournament?
Yeah, I mean, he's just doing everything right. I mean, and we're only going to have him on for a little bit, but I have a whole nother topic that I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on. It's about Scott Martin, and I plan to ask Jacob about this. I mean, did you happen to watch Scott Martin's last video by any chance?
Nope.
So in it, he talks about, because he hasn't made the Classic yet. He's right on the verge. He's like 43rd or 44th or something like that. He needs 1 person, and then he's in. But he talks about in the thing that he was on his last tournament, he was aiming to just finish 50th. And I thought to myself, who goes into a tournament not thinking that they want to win the tournament?
That is strange.
I was watching it, and I'm like, maybe I'm crazy. I stopped watching it, and then I rewatched it today.
Well, did he say what his strategy was?
So,
like why? Why would you only shoot for 50th? I do hear a lot of pros say, look, I'm not shooting for the fences. I've got to make a check, and so I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to make sure I do everything to get a limit every day, so that I So I make
Yeah.
a check.
Yeah. Well, hey, hold on a
But
second.
that's different. That's different than saying I'm shooting for 50th place.
Jacob says he can't get on.
Oh no. Okay.
I'm going to send it to him again.
All right.
Will the helicopter ever make a comeback asking him for a friend? No, it will never come back.
I can send this again if you
Oh, it
want.
says you can't join this event because it already started. Please contact your host.
Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Well, let me send you this link here, which is the one we normally would just send to a guest after the fact and see.
Are you texting it to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if this is any different.
Okay, paste.
So Nathan, you think Martin only wants the classic and then he's done, huh? I watched, when this whole thing went down and he switched over and to fish the opens. He made it sound like, unfinished business. I definitely want the classic. But I think his goal now is I want to be a legitimate top tier BASS elite angler.
Yeah, I mean, I got some ideas on this one later on. It was I wrote a bunch of quotes down that he said, and I just found it really weird. I know he's fishing for the classic to get to the classic. I understand that, but at one point in time, do you just go? If you're just being that conservative, then that's when I start thinking that that's the wrong way to fish. I mean, it's like you don't leave fish to find fish. Especially in a tournament where you got to look at it from a sponsor point too. I didn't, like I said, once we get past Jacob, maybe we can dive into it. Hopefully Jacob can get in here.
Well, I think I'm not a pro angler, obviously, but I would think that the strategy, if you really want to get into the classic as a BASS elite angler, you've just got to do everything in your power to win every time, and if not win, compete at the highest level. You gotta make a lot of cuts every tournament for the entire season, so that you're in that top 45 or whatever it is that they. I don't know how many exactly.
And Booster said it. He knew if he made top, 50, he was in. But the problem, the thing I'm saying about this is that when you play it safe, you tend to make more mistakes. And at this point in time, after 20 years of being on the tour and being one of the most successful anglers on FLW, I think I don't understand why you would play it safe. That's just me. I don't know why in the world you would play it safe.
Well, and Jacob, I don't think ever plays it safe. In fact, speak of the devil, here he is.
Dude!
He made it. Uh-oh, we need to move this around and put the big man over here. There we go.
I had to grab my computer, and so I had to swap it and send an email out, and just I was finally getting there. It was a process.
Jacob, Mr. Bass, Jacob.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, champion Jacob.
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it.
Can I give you the proper introduction for a second? You know I had to do this. So we talked about 2021, 3 wins, a second, 2/3. Didn't do well at Harris, but that's because we didn't see each other at Harris. Just saying.
Right.
Here's some of the stuff that is crazy. 84% of the time you cash a check in a tournament. Did you know that?
I did not. It's man, yeah. I mean that's pretty solid.
That is 45 top 10s, 11 wins. Currently the number one angler in the world. We knew that. 2012 Force Cup champion, 2019 MLF champion. You can find him on wheelerfishing.com, on YouTube. His sponsors, we have to say his sponsors right off the top of that. Academy, Real Tree, Guggen Baits, Duck. Are you still with Duck Boyd, right? Yeah. Toyota, Rapala, 13 Fishing, Triton, Wiley X, Igloo Coolers, Frog Tog. Is it Weeda's Marine?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Good buddy of mine up in Kentucky.
Nice. VMC, Suffolk, Magellan, and Bob's Marine Shop. And he is, we've said it a million times. I know you don't like me to say this. He's the greatest angler right now ever.
Absolutely. You are the dominant, most dominant angler in the entire industry right now. You are a phenom.
How are you, man?
It's been good, man. I just got off the pond. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was trying to reel in a couple more bass. They were blowing up, and I was trying to catch them. And so, that's how you have to stay after them, man. You can't let them you can't let them. You got to catch them slipping. Sometimes they think you're not going to be out there getting after them. I just got back here to Tennessee, and so I was able to sort of go and spend some time, just go out there. It's actually been the first time I've been on the water on Chickamauga for probably over a month and a half. So it was nice just to get out there for an hour and a half or so. So it's just time. Sometimes it's nice not to be competing and just be able to go out there and reel a couple in.
How's the family? Just out of curiosity, how's the little girl, Olivia? No,
she's awesome. I've been taking her on little bike rides as of recent. We've had fun. She's only 2.5. And so she's been jumping on the bike with me and sort of been getting after it a little bit and having fun. Playing dad I took a little bit of time not to be fishing the whole time and spending time with them and my wife. But everybody's good here.
Awesome. I like to hear, especially after COVID.
Dude, yeah, it was craziness.
Dude,
There's no doubt.
How weird was that?
It was insanity. I know. We were so thankful. We were just very blessed to get out of there without getting it. So man, craziness.
Yeah, it was kind of scary after after that whole thing. I mean, 2 days afterwards, everybody I knew was sick, and I was like, oh gosh. But I'm glad you're healthy and everyone's healthy. So I'll let Mr. Bass ask the first question since my camera's all messed up.
So, Jacob, thanks again for coming on the show. We're really excited to have you. I thought I would just ask you quickly. Our audience here is made up of guys that are like diehard professional fishing fans. They know everything there is to know about you. And then we've got other people on here who literally do not follow professional fishing at all, don't know anything about it or anything about you. Could you just tell us a little bit about you a little bit, and why do you do this? Why did you choose to become a professional angler?
Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on and why I chose to be a professional angler, but I bass fish for a living. I'm blessed to be able to be one of a handful, of a couple hundred guys that compete for a living, and it's all I do. It's all I've done since I was 20 years old. Even before that, that's sort of the journey started when I was younger. Obviously, I had a lot of passion growing up, and so about the sport and getting into the sport. My dad and my uncle sort of got me started, and I've just always been interested in why, in tournament bass fishing and fishing in general, whether it's bluegill, largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, saltwater fishing, just anything, and just getting that next bite. So that's something that just triggered something in me at a young age. Second grade career day, I was a professional bass fisherman, so I've sort of known that was sort of like what I was going to do. I just felt that's what I was going to do. And I was very fortunate and for things to line up. I had a lot of mentors along the way. And professional bass fishing is sort of tough because it can be you have to have that moment that gets you to the next step. There's a lot of great anglers in the country. There's a lot of great anglers that could be competing at this level, but there was never that one moment that gave them that opportunity to jump into the next step. And
So what was your
I'm just
moment?
very fortunate to be in this position. What's that now?
So what was your moment?
My moment was my moment was the All American. So for me, so when I was 19 years old, I qualified for a BFL regional. It's the first year that I fished the BFLs. Qualified for a BFL regional in Kentucky Lake. And there were just so many things that you can't necessarily explain how it all went down. But I remember just so many little things happening. Like one thing, for instance, like I had 50 minutes left, and I was 50 miles away. I stopped, make one more cast. I had 3 fish in my live well, catch that fish. I get in, I barely make the cut going into the final day. If I don't catch that fish, I don't qualify for the next day. I don't qualify for the All American. I don't win the All American, and this is a completely different story right now. So there were so many things along the way that had to happen, and so that qualifying for the All American, then ultimately winning the All American when I was 20 years old. There's a lot of great anglers that have won the All American, sort of professional anglers and anglers that are just great fishermen around the country. And that was really the jump start. $100,000 at 20 years old. The opportunity I actually just started my partnership with Rapala basically just a few weeks later. Jumped on with them, and I've been with them since the start of my career. So that was really the biggest thing that got me out there and gave me that opportunity to compete at the highest level.
Awesome.
This year has been insane. I mean, have you looked back at it and just went, there's only a handful of anglers that have ever won 3 tournaments in 1 year, and you have an opportunity for a 4th. Are you feeling the pressure at all, or and tell me what your thought process is on the amazing year that you've had this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not feeling the pressure. I just am like, I just go out there, compete, and I think there's something about like having a mindset sometimes going into an event. I can remember back when I was like my first season on the FLW tour, second season, and where I would fish a certain way and I would do just well enough where I thought, oh man, that fish made the cut. I just got paid, and that was my goal. Like I didn't realize it was my goal, but that was my goal. Really was just to get a check.
Mm-hmm.
And so there came to a point where then I wanted to make top 20s. Then I wanted to make top 10s later on, a few years ago, 3, 4 years ago. And then all of a sudden top 10s came along, and I'm like, well, top 10s are not easy, but things come together. Now all I want to do is win, and so I think that's a progression as an angler. You got to make some bad decisions. You have to learn from your mistakes. But I feel like that's been sort of the progression now. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to go together for that to happen. And I've been fortunate to have a couple of those really great days that could get me in that position. But I do think that there is a mindset as well that goes along with that you just like you change your focus a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Jacob, we were talking about the mindset before you got on, actually, and this was something I wanted to ask you about, because as a champion, really, as an angler that has learned how to win at every level, BFLs, FLW, Forest Wood Cup, BASS Elites, now the BPT. Doesn't matter where you go, you win, and you do it year after year after year. And we're just talking about the fact we hear a lot of even professional fishermen who say things like, I just want to make the cut, or I just want to make a check or whatever. And we also talked about the fact, there's great, awesome anglers who literally have been a professional angler at the highest level for 30 or more years and never even won a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
What is the mindset? What is it about you and those that really can win over and over and over again? Do you think you know what that is?
I think there is something special in those anglers like Ott Defoe, like Jordan Lee, like Kevin. I think Lucas, that understands when they get in that position, even in that position, a lot of times you put I'll risk it all to have an opportunity to win. I start weighing my options, and I see those guys do that as well. Is like it all depends on what your goal is, but especially in MLF format on the final day when everything is zero, when you start to get behind and you realize like, listen, like I can make a top 5 by skipping these boat docks, but I'm not going to make up that 20-pound deficit. I got to find a group. There's things that you leave fish to find fish, or you try to mindset wise, what it takes to win. Now you have to have something in a short amount of time. A lot of times making that decision, you only have a period left or a period half left. And you have to make that decision. Like, well, I know I could probably finish 8th or 9th, but I'm going to do that because if I do find something, I have a chance to win. And I think there is times that you have to put yourself in those positions. Those are decisions that you make on the water, on the fly, and that's important. Now, I think there's anglers that just get it. I've seen that just so much throughout my career that just everything clicks, and they're very naturally talented. I think there's a lot of anglers that work hard, that are great anglers and have worked. And then there's those both that they're naturally talented and they both work hard. There is something about decision making on the water, and there's a confidence. And it's something that you can't teach to anyone. You can't say, hey, listen, this is what you got to do. That's it. It's something that you have to learn on your own. It's a confidence in yourself. It's a confidence in the decisions that you make. It's like this oozing confidence, and I can't even explain it. But you could tell. Like I've talked to several guys that I look at as like some of the absolute best, and they all have that it factor of that. And it really comes down to that confidence is what it is. It's that it factor of confidence in their own ability to find fish, to catch them, and then feel like, hey man, I'm the best out here. And you have to be in that mindset to compete against this group of anglers out there. You got to be like, in your mind, you got to think you are the best, and no one's going to beat you. You have to tell yourself that, because that just helps your confidence. And I feel like making all of that comes into it all. But I feel like sort of like there's a lot of things, but I feel like that is a lot of different variables, really make it all up.
So confidence is a huge thing. Right now, you have to be riding a massive wave of confidence. How does, like for me, I think you and I have talked about this. I can't drop shot. I just can't do it. I'm stupid. It's just how it is. You seem to have everything in the arsenal. You can do everything. How often was there a time where you couldn't do certain things? And then how did you get yourself to learn those things so that you could do them when you're fishing MLF and other tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say there was a time starting off in my career I definitely did not know multiple techniques, and I'll sort of like break it down for you what I sort of look at professional bass fishing. I feel like there's 2 buckets. There's specialist and there's generalist. And so what it really does for me is like there's those specialists, like you look at Ish Monroe, Dean Rojas, Denny Brower, even Kevin, that I look at as anglers that are they fish a particular way. And then generalists, I look at, Edwin Evers is a great one that I looked at growing up, that I felt like he was just as versatile of an angler. When back in the day growing up during the early 2000s, it was really about the specialists. It was really about the guy. Oh, he's going to grind it up. Or it was Denny Brower. He's going to flip them up. It was all about this guy that understands this 1 or 2 or 3 techniques better than anybody else. Definitely. And now it's sort of changed in the way of there was a handful of guys that were good at a lot of things, but not like maybe they didn't have one thing that set them apart. And that's sort of, I feel like that's sort of the big change as of recent. In this day and age, you have to be able to do it all. if you're going to be versatile, or you're going to be consistent and consistently making championships, you're going to have to be able to, adjust and be able to fish whatever lure you need to for that application or for that particular scenario. Now, I didn't always do that. I feel like I've always tried to put myself work on the things that I'm not good at. So like if I'm drop shotting or whatever, or if I never really loved to throw a drop shot, I never really loved to throw a spinning reel. But excuse me, I got to the point where I always try to go out. Even tonight, I was playing around with a couple of baits that I do not really like throwing, and I just want to understand them better. It's always the time and effort on the water. When you're out there on the water, you want to go and throw your confidence bait, but I've always tried to force myself to fish the baits I don't like to throw when I'm out there and I have a little bit of free time to try to learn them a little bit better.
Jacob. Jacob, there are so many different techniques out there. I mean, I look in my tackle box alone, I got thousands and thousands of different lures and stuff. Is there such a thing as just too many techniques, or do you have to be so versatile that you literally are open-minded to just try any and every technique out there?
I think there's a point in time where too many techniques in one day can be a negative. I don't think I think as an angler, obviously fishing professionally, I fish all over the country. And so I'm fishing for spotted bass, largemouth, smallmouth. Mm-hmm. I'm fishing, current, clear water, dirty water. In certain regions of the country, you don't have to know every single technique. So I think as a local angler that's, mm-hmm. weekend angler, or you don't have to know every little intricate detail of every different technique. And you can definitely, if you only have so much time, my whole life revolves around fishing. So I'm constantly working on something. And I think that, and I only have so much time. So I can't imagine a weekend angler that's working a 9 to 5, spending all their time trying to learn, and then trying to go out there on the water and try to learn and try to figure out fish, and then trying to learn all these techniques that I'm sitting here trying to learn as well with the time that I have dedicated for it. So I do think there is times where you can overdo it. You don't want to overdo anything. And it all depends on how much time you really have, but you definitely do want to challenge yourself to add a few extra lures. I'm a big fan of setting goals. And so like, maybe it's even like, hey, listen, you only have X amount of time. In a year, you're only going to go out maybe 10 or 15 times. My goal is to learn 3 new techniques this year different lures that I don't like to throw, or that I have not thrown, and sort of understand maybe how the way it feels, or maybe the scenario it's good at. And that's sort of like the good, that's what I would sort of suggest, is not trying to go into an academy or a tackle store and buy every single technique and try to like sit there and you read all these articles about this and that, and it's great, but slowly work towards that.
Okay, there's been a few questions on the chat thing. First, Booster, a good guy that seems to know way too much, by the way, asked this is going to be 2 questions. Who was your pro angler while you were coming up? And then next, our friend, Martin, your boy, who won't do an interview with me, by the way. I need to get that out there. Even though every time I see him, we have a great conversation, and one of the greatest young men, awesome dude. They said, how is Martin? I hear he fainted a few times in the house. In his house.
So first off, on favorite angler, or there's an angler that a tournament angler hero, it's a combination of them. I look at, obviously the easy one, growing up, in the middle of it all, in the 2000s, early 2000s, I would say, Kevin was a powerhouse. But I also looked, and I mentioned this earlier, was Edwin, was really one that I always looked at. I wouldn't say it was a hero, but I would say someone that I really respected. And I looked at how they went about an event, and I learned a lot from that individual. And so that was one for sure. Edwin was probably at the top of that list. Kevin, I always really enjoyed watching how he would dissect a certain area, or he was sort of the guy who was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go put the trolling motor down and go put it on 10 and go. I'm gonna generate 5 bites. I don't care if I go buy 100 of them, I'm gonna get 5 of them to bite eventually. And so there was that mindset there that you take little bits from each individual pro. I mean, even Denny Brower from back in the day, like I just remember watching so many videos and so many shows that I feel like, I mean, man. And then even like the OG, like Rick Klein, like I mean, I still am just mind blown at what he's done, and how in tune he is. It's just, they're all different though, is what's so great. It's so interesting to see. And then last but not least would be Aaron Martins, because I feel like Aaron, always acted like, he'd always be like have this happy-go-lucky feeling, like, oh man, I'm just gassing a dang drop shot, just firing her at. But there's always a method to the madness. And when you really paid attention to Aaron, he never led on. He led on to like, I don't know, man, I'm just casting, but he just understands them so well, understands bass fishing so well, and the processes the information at insane speeds. Like, and that was something that, like, each of those anglers that I mentioned were so different, but I've learned so much from each of them.
And how is Martin? Is he all right?
Martin's good. I've talked to him twice or 3 times a day. Okay. I talk to him all the time. He's one of my best friends, and he seems awesome. He's doing a lot better. I think everybody sort of had a little bit different of a scare, with their run with COVID and everything that's going on and variants and all the crazy stuff that's happening. But he's good to go. I mean, everything that I would say he's 95 to 100%. Everything that I've heard, I haven't asked him for the number, but he doesn't seem like he's out there working hard and getting ready to, I think he was banding doves the last time I talked to him. So pretty.
Okay, so Mr. Bass, your turn.
So Jacob, another question a lot of guys are asking is on your live stream yesterday, which I watched, by the way. It was really very entertaining and informative. You mentioned the fact that you are using your drop shot, but you are using a Nico hook instead. And there's a lot of guys on here asking about that, wanting to know why you are using a Nico hook for your drop shot.
So the reason behind that is so, like, there's a couple different reasons. One, like, I'm not a huge fan of nose hooking a drop shot. So, like, the original, like, going back in the day, like probably 10 years ago was Robo Worm came out with the rebarb. And so that was like the OG, like, Texas rigging, soft plastic worm hook for drop shotting. And now I've worked with VMC for several years now. They came out with a Nico hook, which was a wacky worm hook. And then just a few years ago came out with a finesse Nico, which is basically a resin little bead that has 2 little prongs off of it, 2 little like monofilament leader, like, to where it can hold that worm on. So technically, it's really designed for Texas rigging your worms or your soft plastics for drop shotting, so you could fish in brush or some of those things and have a little bit bigger, beefier hook. The thing is, the trend sort of happened, especially for smallmouth, and it has several anglers started it back in the day with larger style flukes, like 5-inch or 6-inch flukes on a drop shot. They were, throwing a little nose hook on that. I mean, that's a big bait. So they were throwing larger, like rebarbs and finesse Nicos and stuff like that. And I just got to the point where I'm like, I've lost so many fish where they were skin hooked on just a nose hook, that I just got fed up with it. I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. And so I started looking for baits that I felt like would fit each hook individually. So that's why I chose a number 2 Nico, finesse Nico, because at the end of the day, like, it had more bite. So when I pull into them, I'm not, it's a lot of those fish that I caught this last event were hooked just like there's no way they were coming off. I had to grab those pliers, and it was just like, golly, you couldn't have got them off. If you tried, they would have had to break the line. So that was really something that I've done recently. Now I still think there's times that those smallmouth or even largemouth can see that larger gap of a hook. And sometimes if they're really, really fickle, I have nose hooks in my boat, but those are just like, if they're really that fickle, I'll play around with it. Like, cause you just never know. Like there is always trial and error. But the other reason behind of using that finesse Nico is I could pull on them a lot harder too. It's a little bit thicker wire gauge hook. You have a bigger bite. I pull on them a little bit faster. I get them in the boat faster. And that saves me time throughout the day.
Awesome.
It would be unheard of if we don't talk about electronics. I remember years ago, you and I seeing each other at the Classic, and you having all that stuff. Before, I honestly think you were the person that started this craze. I think so, because you did so well that others were like, Jacob's doing it, we all have to do it. I know you probably don't agree with that, but I do somewhat. Is there too much electronics? Is it too much? Is it? I know it helps make you guys catch more fish, but is there ever going to be too much electronics, do you think?
It's so interesting because it's such an interesting topic. I feel like there's, if you look at the advancements in the sport as far as electronics go, going back from 2D to GPS to side imaging, to down scan, I do think each of those technologies has taught us so much about bass and bass behavior. The forward-facing sonar is definitely by far, I've learned more from that technology than probably any technology I've ever used on the water, because I can visually see how those fish are interacting with the bait fish or how they're positioned on places, and maybe the reasoning behind it. Or well, hey, that fish didn't bite a green pumpkin shaky head, but bit a creature bait, So I think that obviously, as far as electronics goes, that's been the craziest thing for me to see over the last few years. Could it go too far? I could see that, but I really don't. I'm not really worried about that, because so like out of the 3 events that I won this season, the only one that I really even used my electronics in was this last one at Champlain. The first event I won, I caught him skipping a chatterbait and a swim jig underneath boat docks, just completely visual. St. Lawrence River was a visual thing, using your Wiley X sunglasses, looking down there, trying to find individual fish. And so those didn't play really at all. There's times that though you might as well just turn that thing off. All those hundreds of, tens of thousands of dollars of electronics, you just might as well turn it off, because it still does not change, what's in between the ears. It's that mental thought processing, understanding the fish, dialing those fish in. That's each angler is completely different, and you can go down a rabbit hole very, very easily, and get too locked in on electronics. So there's a very fine line of success and failure, and depending too much with your electronics. I think there is times that it's very dominant and it shows in certain tournaments, but I don't ever think that electronics will be. I just don't see. I mean, maybe something in the future. There's something they're going to be able to tell you this or that, but fish in general, when they're pressured, they just don't tend to bite.
Yeah.
And so even if you can see those fish, does not mean you're going to catch them. It does not work like that at all. I mean, I would say on average, maybe 10% of the fish that you visually see that I would say for sure are bass actually bite.
I have a follow up. What about the flogger? I mean, that you guys got that flogger out two things ago, and literally, I think you broke the internet and sold out on floggers that morning. Because
yeah,
I mean, it was like I think I remember. I don't even know what tournament it was. I got up, put on MLF, talked to somebody, and then the flogger came out, and you had a camera on the boat, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
Do you think you could have won without the flogger?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have changed the way I prepared for that event. I don't know if I would have. I don't think the weights would have been what they were without it. But I mean, if you really want to get technical, you put some goggles on, you just stick your head in the water, you get the exact same thing.
Here's my flogger. Here's my flogger.
Yeah, literally, you just start putting your head over the side, put some goggles on, and it's the same deal. It's just taking the glare off the water, to where you visually can see what's going on. That's such a niche. The flogger is such a niche deal. It's been around. I actually had Dan Basor send me a picture of what it looked like to be the original like flogger from the 80s, where he said he used to use it to actually see fish down there. And I know back in the day, probably in 2000s, I remember, I think it started up there in Michigan. So this has been something that's been around for a long time, but it's never really made that big of an impact in a major tournament. And so that was the first time that it was a huge deal. And the St. Lawrence was just sort of like the perfect storm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be another 5 years before we probably see a flogger being, as dominant as it was in that event. You have to have clarity of water. You have to have fish that are locked on the bed. You have to hit it just perfectly. And I just don't. There's not that many fisheries that it really plays. Regionally, it does at certain times, but it's not. I've had that same flogger that I used for 5 years now, and I've used it one time in a tournament over my career until that point in time. So that was the second time I've actually used that thing. So it's sort of it's something you have to have as a professional angler, but it's something that I would by no means have. I mean, it just sort of is what it is.
It was kind of fun to watch everybody that didn't have one start to make their own, and how there was a couple that were just full on redneck, and like it was fun to watch. And literally I texted Edwin on that one day and said, does yours really work? Because his was so like scotch taped and all sorts of stuff, and it was hilarious.
Well, you were taping yours too, right? You were using a lot of duct tape on yours there, Jacob.
Yeah, I used a lot of duct tape because you cut the glare down a little bit, which helps a little bit more just to be able to visually, when the sun's out and you have that bathy scope with like orange, there's a lot of glare, so you could be better off putting duct tape on it to sort of cut down the glare.
What do you think the future of cameras in professional bass fishing is? Underwater cameras.
I've thought about that. I just don't know. Again, it's sort of like a deal where, I mean, I have one. I use it every once in a while, but it's not something that I'm very dependent on. Again, it's sort of understanding fish. A lot of times, like you see a school of fish, like, man, I wonder what those are. You drop it down. You can't really tell from your 2D or your down scan on your boat. You drop down and you just sort of get a glimpse. You're like, oh man, those are walleye. Man, I would have never known that. And so like even like using active target or forward facing sonar, you'd pitch those fish, so they would act similar to a bass or something, and you would fish for them and thinking they were bass. And so I think there's times that, yeah, there is some, but it's more of a clarity of water, more depth. I'm sure it has its times. It's sort of like, I would say it's probably a little bit more, it's still a niche deal. Like cameras are always going to be, if you don't have the clarity, if you don't have, if you can't see visually, if you don't have the best conditions, if it's not sunny outside or cloudy or whatever you need, it doesn't seem, I'm not going to say it's going to be a major trend by any means. Just because can I see somebody maybe understanding schools of fish a little bit quicker if he's got 20 schools of fish and he finds out, hey, 10 schools of those are walleye? Yeah, it's going to help him out. But in the long term, I don't think you're going to see cameras probably being that big a deal.
Do you prefer Do you like smallmouth fishing or is it largemouth? Which one do you prefer?
Man, they're all so different. I still love a big largemouth. I do. It's a largemouth fishing to me is so much fun because they get in the grass, they get in this much water, they get in 20 foot of water. They're a little lazier. They are. And spots and smallmouth are very similar. But yeah, if I had one, I'd to fish for the rest of my life. A largemouth would probably be. And it's different because like different, like a northern largemouth's different and acts different than a Florida strain. A Florida strain does. So there's those little subspecies that are interesting as well.
What makes fish in Florida so tough? Like what happened at Harris this year for you?
So Harris chain.
I think your sound went out.
We lost your sound.
Oh, hold on. No.
Nope, can't hear you.
Wonder what happened. Sometimes when you, I don't even know. Of course, we start talking about Florida, and then do you want to try calling back in real fast? Okay. He's going to try to call back in. Let me just say, how happy are you that you know me right now?
Oh man, I am glad I know you, buddy. This is fun.
All these people should be kissing my ass.
This is really fun. Hail to Steve Chapman. Hail to Steve Chapman.
He talks about robo-worm, and everybody starts talking about. I wrote it down. Robo-worm. Why? Where is it? Robo-worm.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
We can hear you.
Okay, so what happened at what is it called at Harris this year?
So Harris chain was a little bit of thorn on my side. I figured out where I wanted to fish. I figured out I wanted to fish in Harris. But what really happened there was, typically you have those tournaments where you just never get it figured out. You never get it dialed in. And in Harris, unfortunately, it was not that way. I could not put them in the boat. It was something that I very seldom have an issue with losing fish. And that tournament was like probably the worst of my career. The first day I want to say I had 18 scoreable bites and I mean multiple like 5, 6+ pounders. I want to say, half, a third of those were really big ones and just never could, it would just be random things that would transpire, skip underneath the boat dock. One gets it, you roll them, hook them, have them come in and just the way it turns, pops out, the jig pops out of their mouth. Had one on a jerk bait, probably a 6-pounder, same thing. Reeling them in there, fighting him, gets next to the boat, has it all the way down its mouth, turns one time, and the bait comes out. Even all the way to the last cast. I mean, like 10 minutes left to go, hooking a fish. That I was thinking it was 4.5 pounds back or 4 pounds back, and I hook like about a 5-pounder and get all the way to the boat. It jumps off right at the trolling motor. It was one of those really frustrating tournaments for me because the decision making was on spot on. It was the execution sometimes, no matter what you do. And I look back and I think there is a mental side of that as well, that maybe you're playing the fish a little bit differently. Maybe it just is the fact that they were sort of weird. They were sort of weird how they were reacting to baits and stuff because there was still a little bit of a shad spawn happening. Mm-hmm. And those fish would be hooked barely on, they would be slapping at stuff a considerable amount. So it was just one of those tournaments for me that, I actually found the winning stretch, won the tournament on the stretch, that one of the main stretches that I was fishing, but he was really picking things apart a little bit differently and taking his time and making multiple casts to each piece of cover. Earlier in the week when there wasn't as much pressure, you could just generate bites by rolling down through there. And so that was sort of, I don't know, it was just one of those tournaments for me. And I did not. That was one I definitely, I'm like, gosh, dang, I had to look back and think about it a little bit, but it was a tough one.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, there's two things I've heard you say this week after your win on the St. Lawrence that really piqued my interest. I wanted to ask you about. One is you mentioned that I think it was yesterday. You mentioned you share. Somebody asked you, why do you share all this information? You said, well, I share a lot of information, but I have a few things that I keep to myself. That I keep under the vest. And I've heard a lot of pros say, in one form or another, they talk about secrets, if you will, but they also say there are no secrets, man. We all know the techniques. We all know what's out there. All know what's going on. So when you're really trying to be strategic on tournament day, and you definitely are trying to give yourself an edge, what's the flavor of a secret? I mean, is it a color thing, or is it, what thing are you looking for that to differentiate you over other anglers? I know it's different on every tournament, but what kind of thing would there be?
There's just little small nichey things throughout the year. It's typically not a bait. It's typically not I mean, sometimes it can be a bait. It sometimes can be, that you sort of keep under wraps. Sometimes it's just understanding what type of cover they're on a little bit better. Sometimes it's understanding little sneaky things that happen in certain regions of the country and that you just don't talk about. I mean, there's stuff like that is out there that maybe I would say less than 10% of the professional bass fishing world even knows. The professional bass fishermen know. Maybe less than that. And so there's things like that whenever you get clued in and you see something, you just don't talk about it because you just don't know how many people talk. You don't know how many people know. But really, there is. I mean, people are gonna play it off. Always, there's not like a secret. It's just little things that happen as a national pro touring angler that there are little things that you can generate a couple more bites. Whether it's a bait, whether it's like you said, whether it's just understanding a pattern a little bit differently and understanding, hey, they do certain things a little bit, and that's a big deal. I mean. That it is a big deal because a couple more bites throughout every single tournament, or in certain tournaments that you have a little leg up on somebody, or understanding a pattern a little bit better than somebody else. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it really adds up. So as a novice angler trying to fish a tournament for fun every now and then, what are kind of things that we should look for to give us a little bit of a competitive edge?
I mean, I think in local tournaments, you have to understand your competition, and every competition. I mean, this is the thing. This is a part of you have to as fishing tournaments, you have to understand local pressure. Just a weekend angler just out there fun fishing. You have to understand the people you're fishing against and what they're looking at, and then you have to understand the bass. So like when you're trying to not only play and go understand the fish, but then you also have to understand, okay, well, listen, these areas are really pressured areas. I need to hit these couple places here. Well, man, I have this little isolated rock pile I found that no one really probably knows about out in the middle of some grass that I'm going to hit later. I might be able to catch them there every cast in the morning, but I'm like, man, I need to make sure I steal a few fish up there on those boat docks that everybody else is going to fish early in the morning and then make my transition. It's a lot of little decisions like that. I feel like, not fishing the same locations day in and day out, year in and year out. I've made mistakes where you get locked into like, hey, this spot's awesome. This is the best spot on the lake. And then you sometimes miss the obvious. And you can miss the obvious because you get locked into your 6 spots that you like to fish. Sometimes you need to go back and jump on a body of water and that you fish all the time and just say, listen, I'm going to fish this like a brand new lake. I'm going to be like, I know I fished this stuff and fished that in my time, but I need to. That was 5 years ago when I was trying to learn this place. Now this place has changed. Pressure's changed the fish. I need to refish a lot of the stuff that I've fished and try to relearn this place. So now in Florida fishing, it's a little bit different because the grass changes so much every year, especially like on Okeechobee or something like that. And that's what's so awesome about that place. But it's just they're all different. All these fisheries are completely different, and you definitely need to take the time and relearn them every few years, because they definitely do change.
Okay, I got to ask about the Bass Pro Tour. 3 years now, so 3 amazing years. Only seems to be getting better and better every tournament. To be honest, now that you've done it for a few years, how does that live score tracker help or hurt you when you find yourself behind? Do you start fishing faster? When you're ahead, does that change the way you fish? How do these things that Major League Fishing is doing, do they help or hurt you now that you've done it for 3 years?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Score Tracker, because I
Mhm.
feel like I look at it. I've always felt like in professional bass fishing, I feel like every tournament should have a score tracker, whether it's a 5 fish limit tournament, every fish counts. I feel like this is the thing. If I know I need a 1 3-pounder to win the tournament, and I'm 3 pounds back with 10 minutes to go, I can make a decision on the fly. Boom. Okay, I know some areas that have some 3-pounders, and I'm going to make a 4-minute run. If I generate that one bite, I win.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what sports is all about. And if I look and I think of if I think of Tom Brady or, Peyton Manning going down in the fourth quarter and not knowing the score and what they have to do to win. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Like, oh, well, I'm going to kick this field goal and hope and find out that we won the game.
You're still down one.
A touchdown or vice versa. I just can't even we can't fathom that. And I feel like that is the moment that at least me being a sports fan, that is the moment that I live to watch these guys go out there and compete. And for me, that is the same way in my own world in bass fishing. Like, the more information I have and to know what I have to do to win, that's what it's all about. Yes, there's more pressure, and there's way more dang butterflies in your stomach, and you're dang rushing, and you feel all the pressure. But when it happens and things click, and you make that decision, and you win the tournament, or you win that round, or you qualify in, there is never in my entire career been anything more exciting on the water than for that to happen. It's just something so special that you're just like, man, I gotta do that again.
Yeah, that last 10 minutes, in the first rounds, and those guys that are on that cut is it's as much drama as anything. I've always wondered, do you miss bringing up 5 fish though? Or I guess you could fish the MLF Pro Circuit though if you really wanted to.
Well, I mean, I think they're both great. I mean, I think that for me, I fished last year. I fished the super tournaments and had a really good run. We had 3 tournaments there, and had a good run there, and one here at Chickamauga, and it was 5 fish. I do enjoy both formats. I really truly do. I think there's advantages. It's tough because I enjoy the thought process. I feel like there's so much strategy involved for me. There's so much more strategy involved to catch these fish and re-zero at every round in MLF format, where I can catch every single one. Do you save fish? Do you have to relocate fish? Do you try to go look for a new group? Mm-hmm. There's so many things that are going on. That's what I love about it. Now, I'm not saying that there's not strategy with what I did last year fishing here in Chickamauga. Don't get me wrong. It's just different. It's a little bit different. There's moments that you have crazy great mornings and you catch 5 that weigh 20 pounds and you're sitting there and you're like, all right, we're done. Let's go back. We might as well, let's go back and we're good. Or there's moments where you're like, we're waiting for every single bite, and you're like, dang, you catch your 5th one at the last second too. So to me, there's not a perfect deal for me. I enjoy the format. I enjoy catching catching everything over a 2 pound minimum, or but they're both completely different in the way that we compete in them.
All right. One thing that looks like there's several people asking you: are you going to be fishing any winter derbies at Chick this year?
Man, I try to fish a little bit when I'm around the house. I just don't get to fish a lot of events, tournaments. I'm always either filming. I might this winter because one of my best friends, going back to high school years, lives just up the road from me, and whenever we have a BPT event here on Chickamauga, I can't fish with him that whole season. So I can't talk to him about fishing. Can't we can't really go out in the boat. So it stinks. On that regard, I mean, I remember fishing tournaments here. I remember fishing tournaments here when I was 17 or 18 years old, coming down and staying at his family's house and fishing dog fights. They call them down here, and snow and sideways. I mean, I can remember it vividly. So I'm sure if I can get away and fish they typically have a Saturday tournament, Saturday morning tournament, frostbites, and I'll go and jump in one of those here or there. It's so much fun. The competition is what I love, and it's like you're competing against some of the best anglers on the body of water. They're really good, and just to be able to do something, and compete and team tournaments, to me, it doesn't get any better. There's nothing better than to be out there with your buddy and you hook up with a big one or he hooks up with a big one and you're just like, dude, don't let this sucker get off. And there is so much that I do miss those team tournaments, because that is something that I don't get out there on the road when I'm out competing.
Heck yeah.
Okay, I have first off, G4 Outdoors asked if you're going to do any catfishing, but we talked to Brandon Card about this last week. What would you think about one super tournament? Super, where you get the top 10, which is you, by the way, the top 10 at BPT, the top 10 at the pro circuit, the top 10 at the elites, and maybe we throw in NPFL if all goes right. Put all those guys, have one giant buy-in where everyone, it's almost like poker. I use this thing. It's one giant buy-in, and then everybody come together and let's see who's the best. What would you think of something like that?
I mean, I would love, I love fishing tournaments. So I'm like, you can't tell me listen, I'm going to jump in anything. I mean, I just enjoy competing. So I think that would be awesome. I think that the only way it would work is if you had something like a Toyota, like the Toyota Bass Classic was, where you have, that would be awesome to do an event like that every single year. I think that would be absolutely amazing. But I just don't know, you'd have to have a big non-endemic to jump in and be like, hey, listen, let's do this thing. It's great on paper, but it's also, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into those events, and they did that. And Toyota did it for several years. I was like, wow, I realized, I'm like, holy smokes. I mean, with concerts and everything else, I mean, it was insane. So, I would be up for it, no doubt. If they had something like that, I'd be like, yes, sir, I'm there.
And Toyota's one of your sponsors too. So Toyota, we know you're watching. We know you're hearing this. Let's get this done. I think as fans, we would love to see it, because there was such a divide 3 years ago, and it seems like finally things are all coming together. But at the same time, I want to see it kick some people's asses over on that other side, if I can be honest. I still have all those friends. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad, but you know what I mean. It'd be fun to watch.
So Jacob, one other thing that we've been asking other pros is YouTube, social media. It's a thing, man, and you have a dominant YouTube channel going on right now, Wheeler Fishing. It's really fun and enjoyable to watch. But how in the world do you make it all work? Because we're YouTubers and we have full-time jobs as well, and I mean, it takes up so much time. how do you have a successful professional career and also a successful YouTube channel at the same time?
It is constantly it's a lot. It is a lot of work, as you just said right there. You're just juggling things nonstop, and I've been fortunate to have Brody, as an editor and videographer. I'm self filming so a lot of the stuff that I do as well, and so it's just constantly trying to, when you have downtime or you have a minute, to spend time trying to create content that some of the people out there that are trying to learn to fish, some advanced content that's more so to tournament bass anglers, some bank fishing content. It's a constant. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and then you go out there and it doesn't. If you're go out there shooting a vlog or trying to get out there and show how a certain technique works, I mean, it's not like they just jump in the boat every time you go out there. So it's like then you're out there for a full day and you don't get it done, and you're like, gosh, man, I just wasted a day and I didn't get that done. And I'm like, gosh, I'd love, So there's a lot to it. I mean, it's something. I think this is our fourth year. Fourth year, somewhere in there. We just that I've been doing the YouTube game, and it's something that's really a lot of fun. But it is a lot of work, and you have to put the time and effort into it if it's gonna grow.
I sent Jacob a text 2 years ago because he was on up and coming content creators when I first started the channel, and said, "Dude, do you know you're on this?" And his exact text back was, "Of course I do, Steve."
Awesome.
And I was like, "YouTube is giving you props, man. That's awesome." I'm real happy for all your success.
That was awesome. Yeah, I was talking to Roland, and he was on that, around that same time. He's like, "Man, that was awesome." Like, yeah, YouTube was really, it's done a lot. It's so hard though to create a channel and then create content that people, relate to as well. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just learning to be yourself for people that are out there that are trying to, and you just be you. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're just out there having fun and trying to take people along for the ride.
Yeah. Okay. I know he's busy, and I know you got the wife and the baby, and not the baby, your young daughter. But we just want to say thank you for the time, man. And it was good to see you at ICAST. I'm glad that you're healthy. Did you that day for the Bass Pro thing, when we were sandwiched between everybody, was Roland like crazy? Did you hear that whole thing next to me? No, then never mind. No, then
okay.
Scratch that. I'll tell you privately.
There you go.
Jacob, as the GOAT, you have got to settle something between Steve and I, because Steve and I, we're good buddies. We're in lockstep on everything we do, with one exception. One thing we disagree on, and that is, in bass fishing, does color matter?
I am going to say it does, but it's very small amount. In my personal opinion, I feel like rate of fall matters more. I feel like profile matters more.
Action.
I feel like action matters more. Yeah, I would say color is overrated.
Whoa!
This is why I love Jacob Wheeler. This is why I text him. I love him.
Color is overrated. You heard it from the one and only right here.
I just told you guys it. I mean, I don't know. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Wow. Because honestly, when you're going through the process of creating a new lure, they don't paint them for us. They come as white turds.
No, I think crankbaits are different. Soft plastics, I feel like that it's not as big. I feel like I'm more detailed on crankbait colors than I am on soft plastic colors.
Okay.
Steve.
So I feel like it matters more. Crankbait, because hues matter. I've definitely seen it where like a red crankbait will way outperform a white crankbait or a black one or vice versa or brown. I've seen that tons of times. But on soft plastics, I feel like it's a little bit more overrated. You got a guy that sits over here and he's like, man, I got a green pumpkin blue, 10-inch worm, and I'm reeling them in every cast and I'm catching them all the time. And then he's like, man, all I have is green pumpkin left in my boat. And I never got another bite. I'm like,
Yeah, something else went wrong.
yeah, they just weren't biting, bud. You just caught them all. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of there's those little things like that I, or even like I feel like if you have the right rate of fall, I say on a black and blue jig, and if the water's clear, you can get more bites on that than a green pumpkin jig in the clean water being too heavy or too light. So I think there's times that it plays in multiple different ways.
Awesome.
Right
Okay,
on.
everyone, you got to go check him out, wheelerfishing.com. Go make sure you check out his sponsors, check out the YouTube page and Instagram, all that stuff. We appreciate the time. You know that. You
Absolutely,
are,
guys. I appreciate
arguably, all the years that we've known each other, you are absolutely on fire right now, dude. And it's so nice to see because you're just so humble and such a good person that you always, I mean, how many texts you get from me every time you do well?
No, I know. I really appreciate it too.
And it's just awesome to have the time with you. So I know
Thank
Mr.
you so
Bassett.
much, Jacob. Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much for having me on here. I appreciate everybody who hopped on, and I've seen some of the questions over here on the right, so I appreciate you guys hopping on here and dropping all the comments. We will see you guys on the next one. All right.
Thanks, dude. We'll see you soon.
See you, Jacob.
Later, bro.
Dude.
I'm done.
Wow.
Stick a fork in me. I'm done.
That was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet.
You can't beat.
I think what he said there was color matters.
Let's be honest. I think he said color matters a little bit, but not as much as you think it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And let me just say, I'm sorry if we didn't ask. There were a couple questions about sponsors, and normally I think we would go that route, but I don't think what he's doing next year. I don't think he can say without getting himself possibly in trouble. So I apologize that we didn't get to some of those questions. We tried to get. I think we got to most of them, didn't we?
I think so. I didn't ask him what he looks like without a hat on. Sorry, Booster.
I have a picture of him without a hat on. I'll text him. But just amazing.
I am just blown away. I'm blown away with how much confidence the guy has. Just like he said, one thing that I really keyed on early on when he was talking about this last tournament, he's like, I'm relaxed. I'm not nervous about it. I'm not worried.
I mean, and how much confidence do you have to say that?
Yeah, I know. Jeez,
I mean, in all honesty, how nervous? Don't you have the tournament this weekend?
Next weekend, yeah.
So how nervous are you over that one?
Nervous before a tournament. Yeah, you're always nervous before a tournament. And I was thinking, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest. I really think he believes that, and his results show it. He's so confident. He's so determined. He's so focused. The other thing he mentioned is goals, goals, goals.
Yes.
He said I'm a big believer in goals, and he likes keeping score.
Yeah.
And I think he brought up a lot of very interesting points about that.
So you know this, and not many people know. I was at the Florida swim camp this weekend, and Thomas got invited. And, Caleb Dressel is the talk of everything, Olympic gold medalist. And Thomas got to meet him on Friday, and Thomas was freaking out. But what Jacob's saying and what Caleb Dressel say, these great athletes that are in the prime and in doing the best of they have that same mindset. It's ridiculous what Jacob said tonight. I heard Friday from Caleb Dressel.
Really?
He said, I get in the pool, I'm not scared of anybody. I know I'm going to beat you. You might think you're going to beat me, but honestly, you're not going to beat me. And to have that confidence when you go to do anything, even having that confidence in your life, is such a big thing for everyone. It's something we could all take a piece of and just go, we need to be, I mean, because I've said it before, a confident angler is a better angler.
No doubt about it. And I've been that way. I've been on tournaments before. Like I've been on a brand new body of water and go out there with what I think is going to work, and it doesn't, and it's not working. And then you can just feel your confidence start to go down. It's just like, oh crap, what am I going to do here? How am I going to make this work? He just seems, it's true. The professionals, they're prepared. When they get on the water, they got a plan. They know what they're going to do, and then they've got a backup plan and a backup plan. And he's something to watch, though. He really is.
Yesterday, yesterday you inspired me. I don't even know, I've had really a lot of busy days lately, busy days. So I'm not, there's a lot of things that I can't get to that I wish I could a little bit faster, but that's just life. But yesterday we talked on the phone and you're like, I went to this place, caught a 5-pounder. I'm like, I've got to go fishing. This is not fair that my brother is out fishing and I'm not. I went to my frog pond, and it's not a joke. I brought a frog and made about 4 casts, and I'm like, it started to rain a little bit. I got one bite and it popped off, and I'm like, okay, I need to go back to Old Trusty. I need Old Trusty in my hands. Put that Cinco in. 11 casts. I caught 2 fish, a 1.5 and a 4.65, and it was like, and then, and really, in all honesty, I caught the big fish and I went, I'm done for the day. I've done it. And having that's the kind of confidence you need when you are fishing. There's some lures you're just more confident in fishing. I mean, everyone can I don't mind you making fun of me about RoboWorm, by the way. That doesn't bother me. I do think it's, if you notice, you put RoboWorm on there and I start smiling. It's me laughing at what you put up there. Yeah. But you put like a frog or heaven forbid, you put a chatterbait in my hand, or a Cinco, or just a large worm where I can just bounce it off the bottom. I am insanely confident that I can catch fish all the time. Mm-hmm. But to have the whole repertoire of everything that Jacob does is like, that's where it's mind-boggling to me.
It is to me too. And it's not even just the whole repertoire, as you say, but the St. Lawrence River is so drastically different than Chickamauga. Exactly. And so drastically different than the Harris Chain, and so drastically different than St. Clair. And it's amazing to go and win everywhere he goes.
Imagine cashing a check 84% of the time that you show up.
Unreal.
He's only missed a check. It's 12 to 14 times out of 88 tournaments since 2000. That's from 2011.
Wow.
Think of that.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
It is. And really, we probably could have kept him on for the whole 2 hours, to be honest. But, I know his wife Alicia was there and Olivia was there, and I'm pretty sure Olivia was in bed. But he still needs to have his family time with his lovely wife. So we need to.
Yep, for sure.
Make sure. Okay, so can we go over this thing? Can I read? What is iFish Harris? Can we go over this Scott Martin thing real fast?
Yeah.
It might not be real fast. So, in Fisherman 83, Robo Steve, that's me. So if you missed Scott Martin, this last video, he talks about, and I quote this because I wrote this down. He fished too conservative. I'm aiming for a 50th place finish instead of aiming for a first place finish. I found a place that I could win at the St. Lawrence. I can't even read my own writing. And he said, you can't go in 80th and 90th going for a win. He came in 84th and he was going for 50th. If I went, it's a little contradictory because this is exactly what he says. If I went for first, I would have placed 30 or 40th if things don't line up right. So while he's saying I could have fished really good, at the same time things needed to line up right. Mm-hmm. I kind of went into the video, and I only watched like the first 15, maybe 10, maybe 8 minutes, because afterward my mind was just like, what's going on? Like, I go out to play basketball with Thomas, and I'm not trying to win second place. I'm trying to win. And I didn't understand how he would go into a tournament hoping to make 50th at the best. But he says in the thing, I was on fish to catch 20 pounds. If you catch 20 pounds a day, you're in the top 10.
Yeah.
But
That's really strange too, because he has a history of winning. It's not like Scott Martin's never won.
yeah,
He's won quite a few tournaments in his career.
yes. Where did he lack that confidence, or was he just thinking, you want to know what? All these guys are just gonna gift me this Bassmaster Classic because I deserve it.
Yeah.
But then he comes back and it's like he isn't right now. He hasn't made the Classic. There is a good chance he doesn't. To be honest, things need to line up properly for him to make it. And then still, he's making it in on a technicality. He didn't fish his way in. He didn't fish his way in. He's going to get lucky if anything. And to not have that confidence is, I just don't get it, especially from him. One of the best. He's one of the biggest. You know what? I'm going to try to get. I know we're supposed to have someone else next week. I'm going to text him and see if we can get him on.
We ought to see if we could get him on. It would be fun to talk to him. You know what Booster's saying about social media really interests me, because, and it's kind of where I was going with Jacob. It's almost like you've got pro fishermen. There's a group that say, screw all that social media. I'm going to focus on fishing.
Yes.
And then there's other guys who say, no, I am focusing on the social media. And Scott Martin's definitely done that. He's got a heck of a channel and but I do wonder how it affects their ability to fish, because it is a huge distraction. You can't deny that spending tons and tons of time on social media doesn't take away from some of your practice, some of your preparation, it's got to. And that's another thing that just blows me away with Jacob, is how active he is on social media, and yet he still finds a way to win. He doesn't let that interfere with his success on the water. But I do think Booster's onto something. I think we will see that there are some pros that are going to continue to be very good on social media, and you might see that directly affect their success in the water in a negative way.
I mean, even look at myself. I barely do Instagram. I barely do these days. I'm barely doing. The only thing I put on Facebook is the videos that I do, or this.
Yeah.
It's a chore for me.
It is for me too.
Just to get out, and I have a lot of videos already done, and the amount of closer looks I've still got to do is astronomical. But it's hard for me to do as one person. It's really hard for me to do it myself.
Absolutely. I totally get it.
It takes a lot of time to edit a video and to do it. And luckily he's got his buddy that does it, which is really good. I mean, like, look at Brandon Palaniuk. Brandon always has his, I forgot his name, his buddy that follows him to do everything. And you kind of almost, these guys need to have someone at all times. I can tell you, Kevin Van Dam's going to have a lot more YouTube stuff going on here soon. They are packing in a bunch so they can put it on the shelf and it be done. But he's now got 2 people that follow him everywhere and film everything that he does.
Wow.
And I don't think you've seen any of it there, but I know at iCovid, his son, I saw his son in front of, that was where the Roland Martin deal went down. He was right there next to me filming. He probably got the whole thing on film, to be honest, because it was an awkward situation. But that's why I wasn't sure if Jacob heard that whole thing, because I was confused. But I mean, it's hard to do this, and maybe Scott. I mean, if you go back and watch it, it just seems like he says something and then he says another thing, and I just didn't agree with thinking that the best thing he should do is try to go for 50th place. So,
That does seem very bizarre to me. I don't think I've ever heard a pro say it. I got to go back and watch his video. I gotta see that.
Yeah. I mean, it bothered me. I guess that's the best way to put it. It bothered me.
Me too. Well, this was such an amazing opportunity with Jacob, but why spoil it by continuing to talk here?
Yeah. And something else is going on in my life too.
That's right. You got something serious you need to take care of as well. And why don't we just wrap up early tonight? Great show. I enjoyed that immensely. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
How do we top this?
We can't top it. Why try? Come on, let's face it.
Everyone make sure you hit that thumbs up button, by the way.
Yeah, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channels if you've not done so. We are going to wrap her up early tonight so that Steve can go take care of some personal business. And let's face it, go back if you want to see something good. When we shut off, go back and watch this again.
Imagine the stuff you can learn from what happened.
I'm going to go watch it again because
me too.
A ton of stuff he had that was just excellent. Okay, thanks everybody for supporting the channel. We really appreciate it and supporting the show. Please share the show. We would really appreciate you sharing this with people who maybe don't know about us or don't listen to us.
Yes.
So with that, you want to wrap us up, Steve?
Yep. Guys, remember to take your kid fishing. Get your fish on. Thank you, Mr. Bass. Thank you, Jacob. We will see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.